Hi everyone, the Lone Wolf here, and welcome to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the markets in EVE Online. Now, if my voice is a little bit off, it's because I'm a little sick. My throat actually hurts, and I do think it's after 3 weeks of having to work a lot of overtime, it's finally starting to take its toll. So I am a little sick. If my voice is a little bit off, sorry about that. Not that much I can do. Another thing that I quickly wanted to touch on is that a lot of people, or at least a number of people, have reacted pretty badly on the comments in my video about the changes to being able to anchor a boss without needing the whole reputation with the specific empire anymore. That is something that CCP is planning for the summer expansion. And at first I was like, well, come on guys, it's not that big of a deal. But upon thinking about this a little bit more, honestly, there is a little bit of a problem with that. And one thing is, risk and effort are two things that are always rewarded in EVE Online. And the grind to like 7.0 or 6.0 reputation with an empire to be able to put up your boss is actually something that a lot of people put a lot of value in. And so I do understand that reaction. But rather than saying I'm going to quit the game over this, maybe we should try and think a little bit more productively about this. And so one possible idea that I came up with that might still provide players that have done the grind with some value is we know that the bosses are meant to be a better place to do your manufacturing and your research. So I wonder maybe CCP should consider implementing like a scaling to this advantage that you get from doing it on in a boss that is tied into how good your standing is with the empire where you've anchored your boss. This doesn't have to be a huge advantage. It could even scale. The closer you come to 10.0, the less the reward actually is from going from like 0 to 1. In your reputation, it gives you a decent boost. After that, it becomes less and less and less for every jump up in reputation, so that it doesn't become something mandatory. But it would reward people that have already done that entire grind to be able to have a boss in a good system close to a trade hub, so that they can do a lot of research and all of that. Maybe have this standing increase the profitability of the boss in the specific empire. I think it could be an interesting avenue for CCP to consider to, I don't know, maybe help the guys out a little bit that have spent weeks, even months, grinding missions just to get that reputation for being able to put up the boss, who really feel a little bit cheated now because all of that effort no longer yields any reward. Anyways, that's my 2 cents about this. If you have some comments or some ideas of your own how you would basically still reward people for having really good standings with empires, feel free to put that in the comments. I might even make a thread on the EVE Online forums about it. Basically, I don't think it's that big of a deal that people will be able to put up a boss anywhere in HiSec, but that's of course partly because I've not done this grind, and I do understand that in EVE Online one thing we would like to see is that all the effort we've put in the past still has value, even if the game changes a little bit. And so maybe CCP should try to implement something to reward these players. Anyways, we're also here for the market, so we will start it off with plex as always, and that's at 4 minutes. So let's check it out. 722, 704 for the buyer, so that's down a good bit after this stop. Is this going to be the turnaround? Like I've said, I'm not sure. FanFest is right around the corner. This is going to have some impact still, I think. Maybe after that we'll start to see some sales, and that could start to decrease the price of plex. But I am happy to see that it's no longer in the 740 region, but it's actually gone down a little bit towards 722. Still, if you notice here, the 20-day moving average chart is still slowly trending up, so I don't think this is a complete turnaround just yet. I think maybe after FanFest, if we get good sales and if activity drops off just a little bit, this might change. But honestly, with finally an industrialist focused expansion. That might not be the case, so it's going to be an interesting run up to the summer expansion for Plex, I think. But for now, yeah, it's corrected a little bit from the spike, but still no sign that it's going to go down towards like the 600 or the 500 million anytime soon. Let's move on to minerals then. Put up the titanium chart, and that's at 515, something like that. 523 for the sellers, 537 for the buyers. Is that still up? Let's go for the 1 month chart to see what it's been doing. Yeah, still trending up on the 20-day moving average chart. For the entire month it's up. Well, that's decently significant, 25 cents up on the entire month on a 5 ISK item. That's a good amount. So yeah, looks to me like titanium is still trending up. We still have these big 2 billion, 1.3 billion units orders over here, so that does mean there is more demand than supply. And in fact, these are actually recent orders. Look at that, 89 days and a number of hours. So yeah, more demand than supply here at the moment. Let's have a look here at pyrite, also going up, although it was moving sideways to down for a little bit, and now it's spiked back up in the last week or so. Probably much more demand than supply here. Again, look at that big order coming in, 500 million units. That's more than the entire front page of the seller side of things. So it's clearly a supply demand thing, and minerals, at least for the high-sec ones, have been going up for a few weeks and still seem to be doing so. Look at that, that's a pretty good chart for Mexalon. After a small pullback to 48 ISK, it's already back above 50. Current price is 50.5 for the sellers. Here, one really big order, 150 million units on the buy order side. Very recent order. That's again pretty much the entire front page of the sellers being bought up or equivalent in just one order. So there is more demand than supply here. Isogen, what has that one been doing? Again, on the entire month it's up quite considerably, from 130 heading to 135. It knew a little correction after the spike here to 137, but now the trend does seem to be back up in the last 2 weeks or so. And are we seeing the same thing here? Well, we get a big sell order here, 12 million units, but we also have a pretty big buy order here, 44 million units, 82 million units, both of these less than a day old. More demand than supply. It's definitely here for minerals here for some reason. Maybe it's like industrialists stocking up on minerals in preparation for whatever might happen else in the expansion that is going to be based on industry quite heavily. Noxium, same story here, little pullback here, and then it takes back off towards 755. Here we go, 11 million. By far the biggest order on the entire visible chart here is the most recent one, the highest buy order price and the biggest amount. So if you want any examples of demand being higher than supply, here it is, even Noxium reacting quite violently. Let's have a look at the nullsec ores. That's much more stable. Look at that, Megasite much more stable. Zydrine, yep, also stable. It went up quite significantly, but here in the last 2 weeks that's pretty much a stable situation. And then we have, let's have a look at Morphite, probably stable to down a little bit even. So that is much more, yeah, not that increase in price that we're seeing from the high-sec ones. I think the reason is that a lot of this also has to do with the reprocessing changes. People are expecting a change in supply from high-sec ores because of this. The null-sec ores, though, that should remain the same or even become a little bit better because of the better efficiency in null-sec with reprocessing, and thus we're seeing a much more stable situation here. It's also true that stuff like Megasite, Zydrine and Morphite in Cheetah are dictated by the sell order price really. That's where most of the action is, and this is why we're seeing a pretty stable situation, because the nullsec guys have no reason to change anything up in their supply to Cheetah. In fact, they're going to have more of these available after the summer expansion, so it's a good idea for them to try to keep the price at a stable level, just try to keep making the same amount of money at the moment. And I do think that's what's happening. The nullsec minerals are kept at the same price. The high-sec ones like Isogen, Mexalon, pyrite and titanium are all going up because of the expected changes, and there is an increase in demand for these as well. Next up, Tech 1 ships. Let's have a look at that. Any impacts here? That's at around the 10-minute mark. Yeah, Drake, pretty nice jump up here from, let me see here, 46.6 to 47.8. That's a pretty big jump. I'm just not seeing the demand though. The supply in fact has already come online here, 27, 20 and 26 at the 48 million mark, so this is going to bounce right off here and start to come back probably to a more normal price of around 47 million ISK. Which is yeah, just a little bit down here. The supply guys have already seen this opportunity, bounced on it, and now supply is higher than demand, and so this is going to correct. It's going to be short-lived here. Maelstrom, that's a stable situation, I would say. One bigger order of 10 units, but that's something the market can absorb. This all looks pretty stable here. Omen, decently stable if you look at the 1 month chart, up a little bit. So are we seeing a bit more demand all of a sudden? No, supply may be drying up a little bit for some reason, but we're still, no, yeah, actually all of this is pretty old. So yeah, supply might be drying up for some reason. Omen producers may be starting some sort of an embargo, which is interesting. I have a BPO. I might want to make some omens and bring them to the market here. Because if this goes up towards like 11, I'm sure we'll see supply come right back in. And in fact, that's the price they're already trying to sell at. So yeah, there is something going on with the Omen. All of these orders are pretty damn old. If you can produce them, it's probably a good time to bring them to the market. The Rogue here, that's again decently stable, up in the final part of the chart. But I think recent, yeah, there is enough supply here. This is not going to spike up too drastically. This will probably continue to actually maybe correct a little bit here. I do suspect the 200 million price band for the Rock is a normal one, and overall, although the trend has been up for an entire month, if you look at the majority of this chart, pretty stable here. Talos next, that one's going up. This might be live events related, honestly. If you want to have a chance to be the best battle cruiser DPS on one of those carriers, you might want to consider Talos. It's also close by, so you also have a chance to grab the corpse or shoot the bot with a specifically fit Talos. So that might be why we're seeing some more interest in it, and the price taking off from 72 million up to 80 million now. Yes, sell orders 81.5 million. I think the live events might have something to do with it for this specific Talos chart here right at the tail end. So that's yeah, that's pretty interesting in the Tech 1 market. I feel most of these are stable, except when there is a specific thing happening, like supply for omens drying up. Some increased interest in the Talos. Could be also, it could be a Nullsic Alliance building up a Talos doctrine, or it could just be the live events having their impact because of the race aspect that is to it. A Talos is a pretty good ship to give yourself a shot in the battle cruiser category. Let's move on to Tech 2 ships. I'm writing down a 1325. And here the Absolution is correcting. In fact, prices seem to be going back down. If we're seeing something close to 190, no, buyers are still above that, sellers as well. This is in the process of correcting, but it's a little bit too early to go after them just yet. Astarte here, that's going down still. I'd like to see it closer to 200 million. Still 210 on the sellers, 270. Nope, too early to make a move here in my opinion. Claymore could start to be interesting, I think. 197 on the buy orders, that's below this. Yeah, maybe Claymore is in the buy order region. You know, if you can pick some up below 200 million, if you look at the 6-month chart, that's definitely a good thing to do. And you will probably get a good sell opportunity later on. Next up, the Damnation. It's working on a new spike here. Look at that. Going right back up towards 231. In fact, sellers are already at 244. It's time to unload them if you have them here. Let's see if the timing on the... No, the timing, it's actually a little bit early. It hit the 220 mark. Most spikes take off at the 215. So this one was a little bit harder to judge, except maybe for like the last few ones were closer to the 200 mark. Here this spike, and now a repeat of that. But yeah, it's time to sell some damnations if you manage to buy them cheaply. EOS, this looks a little bit too stable to me, honestly, still hanging that 280 to 90 price band. You would need to correct a little bit more. If all of a sudden, yeah, you look at that, buy orders though are at 260, which is quite a lot lower. In the unlikely event that you can still buy some for like 270, yeah, that could be a good idea, you know, for some investments. The Guardian is going low here. I'd be starting to look into buying some Guardians if you want to make some trade money. Still a good amount of supply here as well. So yeah, that's starting to be interesting. Look at the gap here closing between buyers and sellers, 131, 135. If you look at the rest of the chart, we've seen them spikes up towards 150, 170 even. Honestly, the Guardian looks pretty interesting for some investments. The Nighthawk generally pretty stable here, so yeah, I wouldn't spend too much time there. Sleipnir going down nowhere near 6-month lows, so way too early again here. And then the Vulture working on a very nice spike. That was quite unexpected from me. As I've said here last week though, we saw the bottom come out here. It dropped back towards the 205 million mark, which is right on the lowest part of 6 months, and then look at that big spike towards 250. Yeah, if you'd made the investment, you know, on like the lower half of this downward part here, you made a pretty good one, because now you can sell your vultures for a pretty damn good price. So that's it for Tech 2 ships. Let's have a look at Tech 3 ships. 1635 oversupply chart here. Look at that, Legions staying below 125. Loki trying to break 125 but correcting right back. So if we look at supply demand here, 24, well, maybe this is a little bit more stable again. So the 125 million mark might just be where people start to have enough interest in buying throwaway Tech 3 ships. Proteus again here, 135 for the Proteus. 100 units coming in, so this is actually going to come right back down. If it ever comes close to 136, it's got to get rid of 100 units. That's not going to happen anytime soon, so this will stay stable around the 135 mark unless even more supply comes in. You know, it's 10 million more to produce a Proteus than a Legion or a Loki, so yeah, we might see more supply coming in, prices of Proteuses going down as well. It's a possibility. Tengu still heading down again, 125 million mark. We're still seeing, look at that, 99 of them coming in at 124 million. So oversupply in Tech 3 ships, it's still there. It might just be slowing down in the Legion and the Loki, just because they're so extremely low. I do expect then that production might be switching off to the Proteus, which has still been able to hang on at 135. But don't be surprised that oversupply here is going to push that price down as well. Melted nano ribbons correcting back towards 3.6 million. So yeah, wormhole space, you know, it's losing a lot of its attractiveness if you're trying to make ISK there, I think. Yep, that's it for Tech 3s. And then finally, today I want to check out the bosses. Let's have a look if the star base, let's see, structures, control towers. That's what I wanted to quickly check out. Just the standard ones. Let's see if anything has happened because of the announcement that people would be able to put up a boss in ISK just like that without needing to do the grind for faction standings. Looks to me like a Mark control tower, definitely up a little bit. Then the medium one up as well. Yeah, and the small one up as well. Look at that. That's definitely a market reaction. Kaldari one a little bit. The medium one, nope, not so much. And here again the small one up, because that makes sense to me. You know, I think the Amar one will have a special attribute to it, making it a very good one. Then the Kaldari one, you know, the small one, that would be pretty normal. Kaldari is the most popular race, so small towers where early players might just want to invest in that. Galente control tower up a little bit, not that drastically, and the small one actually down a little bit. Minmatar pretty much stable to down here again. So yeah, it's DMR control tower that's the winner. I do think that one has like a best attribute in something. Also the called Amar bosses have something, bosses star bases have something. So yeah, I think this is really the winner of this announcement. Not sure what I can pin this on. If you have any more info, feel free to put that in the comments. A couple of the Kaldari ones winning out as well. It might just be that those are the most popular ones at the moment for bosses, and that's why we're seeing this movement. But I do think we can attribute this to the announcement that bosses will be anchorable anywhere in HiSec without the standings. And like I've said in the beginning of the video, I do hope that they will reward players with a standing, with some sort of buff to their boss. Let's hope that that will happen as well. I might just make a thread on that. I do think that maintaining value in the effort you've put in the game is actually pretty important for EVE Online, and so I actually don't blame you guys that are a little bit mad about this idea from CCP. Anyways, that's it for this EVE Talk, guys. My voice is actually starting to give up. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.